So let's be honest, this is not a review that I thought I would be doing because I wasn't sure that I was going to actually purchase this movie. As many of you that may be huge Chucky fans or Child's Play fans, this may be at the bottom of your list, which I find a bit ridiculous because if we're talking about all of these here, which we'll get into a minute, I don't know. I think Seed of Chucky might be the bottom. This might be right above it. But Seed of Chucky is definitely at the bottom. So that brings me to why I got this. So you see all of these. I've got all these. I've got the alternate artwork. I've got all of that. From a completionist standpoint, I needed this movie. Now, also releasing today is the Carrie remake, which I will not be purchasing because that movie is garbage. I'm not saying that this movie is any better. I'm just saying in the context, I'm not the biggest Carrie fan, so I really don't care to have the remake. The remake is bad. It's fine. I love Chloe Grace Moretz. I think she's fantastic, but the movie is not good, and I'm really not a big fan of Carrie in general. I like the Sissy Spacek one. I think it's good, but there's never been a Carrie. I'm not even a big fan of the book, to be honest. I think it's fine, and I think the original movie is fine, but it's not a series or, you know, I wouldn't say franchise, but it's not a movie that I specifically need to own the remake of. I don't know. This was more completionist. You know, I bought the latter 3 Halloween movies because I'm like, well, I have all these, so I've got to buy these other 3, right? Even though extensively, like, Halloween Resurrection is a terrible movie that I'm never going to watch, and I actually haven't even watched the 4K at all. It was just one of those, I'm like, I'm never going to watch this. On principle, I'm going to pay for this, and I'm not going to buy it. I did end up getting it like half off, so I didn't pay like the $100 and something that they wanted for this. Here's Child's Play. You know, what got me there? Okay, so I have this cool Chucky cup that I got from Halloween Horror Nights last year. So just a badass cup. Anyway, and I was drinking this. I was playing some Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, doing the things that I do when I'm not watching horror movies. And I was looking at this and I was like, damn it, am I gonna buy that Child's Play remake? And I was like, I went back and forth and I eventually did. I actually flipped a coin. If you wanna know the honest truth, I got a coin out. It's a little hefty coin and I flipped it. And I was like, we're gonna heads or tails this shit, you know? Now typically when I collect, I do not heads or tails things. I just buy them or I don't buy them. This is one of those that I was conflicted on and I really didn't know if I wanted to buy or not. Luckily, I got my Vinegar Syndrome box the same day, so it was like, I had this for a couple days now and I got my Vinegar Syndrome box the other day and it's like, well, I got this, but I also got my Vinegar Syndrome movie, so I guess I'm happy anyway. I have some good news here. I've got some good news here, so it's not all bad. We'll talk about the movie at the end, but we're going to first show off the packaging, the video, the audio, the special features, and kind of let you know if you actually really like this movie, is it worth upgrading from a Blu-ray if you own that? And if you don't own this movie and you're in my spot and you're just like, hey, I kind of need this just to round out that Chucky collection because it would be the only one. I know it's a remake of the original, so you don't necessarily have to own it. But for me, I don't hate the movie, but it literally was a coin toss. But will you make that same coin toss? So let's get into it. So here you go. Here's the front of this. The back. So that's just the poster art. Let's get into that. Inside, no alternate art here. There's your disc. My 4K one is still in the player as I was looking at some of the special feature stuff and while I was taking screenshots, which I'll overlay in the video portion. But that's pretty much the packaging, pretty substandard. As always, my Blu-ray disc was loose. Now, I have gotten lucky. The last couple times it has come loose. It has been the Blu-ray, just like my Ring collection. I'll link that below. You can check that out, see if the Ring collection is worth a purchase. But luckily, it's been the Blu-ray both times, which I ironically don't watch unless I'm really trying to do a comparison of the two. But the Blu-ray has the 4K master, so I would have to watch the older one. I did not own this, so I'm just gonna tell you how this one looks. So this is a new 4K restoration of the master. And you know, the good news here is it's a modern movie that has been restored in 4K. It looks fantastic. I don't have any gripes actually because it looks very good. It's a very crispy, clean movie. And I was just watching this like, damn, I'm actually kind of impressed that this looks good. I'm not saying the cinematography is good. I'm not saying the shot compositions are good. I'm not saying the acting or the movie is good at all. But visually, it is a very good movie. I have an OLED. It's finished off in Dolby Vision. So from my point of view, I'm sitting here looking at it. I was like, damn, this is a good looking movie. This is a pristine, clean movie. No grain to be seen. It's shot digitally, so it's one of those things. You take that, you put it in 4K, you do a little restoration, and it looks great. So I'm sure they have done some work here. Scream Factory doesn't always go into their restoration process, just like some of these companies don't. They're just like, hey, it's a 4K master. I was even looking to see if this was a 2K intermediate, this shot in 4K. I believe this was shot in 4K, but let me know down in the comments. Well, I was trying to look around to see, and I just couldn't find it. So if you know like what the actual intermediate of this is from the master, you can put it in the comments so everybody knows. But it does look good. It's in 4K, and I don't have any complaints. I think all the colors are good. The HDR looks fantastic. You know, the blue eyes on the doll look very good. The red stands out. So there's a lot of good color stuff in this movie. So overall, from a visual standpoint, I think it looks fantastic. I'm gonna give this a 5 out of 5. It's pristine, and I don't really have any negatives here. I can't complain regardless of whether you like the movie. The movie looks damn good. So let's get into the audio. This is a 5.1 DTS HD master audio track, and it sounds very good. Now, from an audio standpoint, there is a lot of dialogue in this movie. There's also a lot of jump scares in this movie. In the latter half of the film, yes, there's a little more action, but it isn't an action-packed movie. But this is a modern track. It doesn't do anything that it's overly excited me. I think it's fine. It's very basic in its nature, but it hits the heights that it needs to, and it does it very efficiently. So I don't know that I'm gonna complain about it. It's about a 3.5 for me. It's not bad, but it did not, you know, surprise me. Like the video, like legitimately was like very good. And not that I didn't think it was gonna be good, but it was one of those things I was like, wow, this actually turned out very good. And I think I just don't, I'm used to looking at old, weird, obscure movies that have terrible intermediates, or they're going from the inner positive or whatever it is. And so I don't get to watch many modern movies. And when I do, I'm like, okay. You know, it was like the other day, about a month ago, I was watching The Equalizer 3, and I was like, oh my God, this movie looks amazing. And so I don't get that very often with the type of stuff that I typically watch. So watching a movie that obviously this came out in like 2019, so it obviously looks good. The audio stuff, again, it's fine. It's not amazing. It's not bad. It gets the job done, which sometimes is what you need from an audio track. So special features wise, there's not a lot. They're all on the Blu-ray. You do get an audio commentary with director Lars Klevberg on the 4K, but on the Blu-ray, we have the same audio commentary. We've got the making of Child's Play, bringing Child's Play, Chucky to life, soundtrack trailer, Lee Hardcastle claymations, gallery and theatrical trailer. Not much here, probably about a 3.5 on the special features side. The making of is interesting. Again, I think you gotta like the movie that you're watching to like be wholeheartedly interesting. I'm just interested in how movies are made, good or bad. So it's one of those things I was like, you know what? Let me watch how this train wreck derailed. I need to see behind the scenes of that. No, it's fine. But let's talk about the movie for a little bit. Just, you know, just a tad bit. I do like Mark Hamill. I think he does he's okay as Chucky. Obviously, nobody can replace Brad Dourif. So I just think it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are. It just really doesn't. Like, unless you're Brad Dourif, it just doesn't matter. I think this was always one of those things that whenever you're replacing or recasting or doing any voice stuff in an iconic role, it would be like taking Roger Jackson out of Scream. Regardless of what you think of Scream, if you took him out of Scream, if he was not the voice of Ghostface, it really doesn't work because he is iconically and justifiably Ghostface. So it's one of those things, it's like taking that out doesn't always work. Some roles you can recast, it's not that big of a deal, and sometimes it can be because the actor passed away, you know? Zavala, you know, he's gone, and so we've got Keith David taking over for him, and it's one of those things that in some aspects, video games, I think it can work a little bit more, but in movies, sometimes it can be harder, and you just can't replace Brad Dourif, and so I just think when I hear the voice, it just seems out of place, and I love Mark Hamill. There's a little bit of Joker in there. It just doesn't work for me. The best person, obviously, is Aubrey Plaza. I think she does a phenomenal job. She's playing against what she would normally play. She's very weird and quirky a lot of times. It's like April, this is not, so it's one of those things that I think when you play with her, she's just kind of like this shitty mom who's like trying to make things work, doesn't believe her kid, and just holding that to the original is very difficult. I think it's hard not to compare this to the original movie, and I have a hard time separating it because it is so much so similar beats to the movie. The structure is somewhat similar. Well, it's a little different, and they brought the technology aspect. I don't hate all of that stuff. Just at the end of the day, it's just fine. So overall, I think on the movie front, it's probably like a 2 or a 3 if I had to. I don't rate movies, but if I did, it's probably what I get it. It's not a bad viewing. So again, I think your purchase decision is going to come down to a couple aspects. It's like, one, are you completionist and you're just like, hey, I already got all the other movies, what's one more? I think you should wait for a sale. I think if that's your aspect going into this and that's your route going into this, wait for it's a sale. 20 bucks for this thing, not bad. Throw it on the shelf, watch it occasionally, whatever. You might enjoy it. If you actually really like this movie, then it's a no-brainer. If you love this movie and you're like, hey, I hate all the other Chucky movies, the Child's Play remake is my favorite, then yeah, hell yeah, buy it for yourself, man. You do you. But, I mean, that's kind of your context. So I think it's kind of, if you really love the movie, then I think it's a no-brainer. If you're going to watch it tomorrow and you're going to pick it up and you're going to love it, then I think it's an easy buy. It's like 33 bucks, so I don't think it's, you know, again, it's not the most expensive thing. Obviously, Scream Factory puts out, but it's not the least expensive thing. So, you know, you got a lot to work with there. But again, if it's something that you just want to own for completion's sake or something that you kind of want to get, you've never seen it, is it worth it? Definitely wait for a sale. They do Scream Factory sales. Amazon does a lot of them. They've been doing them more frequently than they ever have. So definitely wait for one of those. So that's pretty much all I've got. I'm going to link some videos for you at the end as always. If you like what we do here, consider becoming part of the collective. If you really like what I do here, I do have a Patreon. It's $2 a month. It's just some extra supplemental material. So don't feel like you need to go do it. It was one of those things that I really wanted to do some extra stuff and some weird stuff. It just, YouTube doesn't necessarily reward that weird stuff. And it was stuff that I didn't have thumbnails for. So I did a couple reviews over there. I've done a couple Vinegar Syndrome extra stuff I'm going to be doing. Some Vinegar Syndrome extra stuff there later this month. And so it's just, I just kind of talk a little bit more, and I do have something in the works that I mentioned in my last Dark Water video. So definitely check that out. You know, Hideo Nakata's classic Dark Water horror film. That video is going to be at the end for you. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. You guys are awesome. If you made it all the way this far into the video, man, you guys are awesome. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in my next 4K review.